A beast remains, a hidden lair in the makings of legendary artifacts. Volke's journey has never been more perilous. With corruption thick in the air, he leads his axis to a plague-ridden Hydra, forcing his ally to confront their uneasy partnership. Blood is spilled, hearts are torn from monsters, and a new weapon begins to take shape. But power comes at a price. The Lamplighters Guild offers venom and dragon scales, and Hellion's Mask holds a sinister promise. As bonds deepen and rivalries simmer, Volke must forge more than a blade. He must carve his own destiny. The pieces are set, and the battle for control has only just begun.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host Scott.
And today we're going over chapters 36 through 40 of Master Arcanist. And before we get into today's chapter discussions, I just want to remind you that July 19th is the deadline for the nominations for Dragon Con. Let's get Shammy to it.
Go vote.
Go vote. Get it in. All right. With that, we're going to get into today's chapters, starting with 36, Hydra's Gorge. Volke starts to venture into the gorge itself, forgetting that everybody just kind of throws all of the things into the gorge as a, trash can.
It's gotta be so disgusting down there.
I wouldn't even want to think about it, because they throw their chamber pots out there, they throw their food out there, just...
Everything rotten and smelling awful.
Right. And this has got to be a not so fun thing, because there's dragon bones, human bones, mystical creature bones, various sorts. Volke thinks he even found a mystic seeker down there looking for the Typhon beast, and he even has a letter from his daughter. I was expecting this to come into play at some point, and I know sometimes words don't always mean things, but this is one of those times where I was like, is this letter important? Is there some kind of clue in it that it's gonna be like, oh my gosh?
You really expect it, like the random letter that I find and I'm gonna read. I thought the same thing. I was like, this is gonna lead him to the lair. Like the guy found it, was escaping and died. No, he just letter from his daughter.
It was very sweet. Absolutely was. Just was expecting something else to happen. Volke is getting very good with his tremor sense. He's actually to a point where he can see the spider's silk with it, and she describes Volke lowering himself down on a rock, and in our notes I have a picture of SpongeBob and Squidward sitting on top of the rock that they drive to deliver the Krusty Krab pizza, because it's the pizza for you and me. And I really would love to be able to just travel on a rock.
Jealous. Really just jealous. There's a lot in SpongeBob that I'm jealous of. So we'll leave it at that.
Volke not only finds the previous Typhon beast, but he actually ends up finding the lair to the new Typhon beast, and this is kind of a unique situation because we don't always see the lair for the next one where the previous one died at. And I again love how he stumbles upon it and then happens to find the lair itself. Now he's talking about all of the different trinkets and artifacts and all these other things that he wanted to bring with him, back with him, as far as bones from the Typhon beast and all this other stuff. I really just hope he doesn't run out of carry weight and then he can't fast travel.
He's got a strength potion with him, so he's ready.
Hopefully he can get back in time with it's maybe like a 3-minute strength potion, so Riker is getting a lot better with his transformations. He's actually even able to use Hydra magic when he is transformed into a Hydra. And I imagine it's a lot less gruesome looking than it was previously. We end up seeing this very solid conversation with Linus, and Volke ends up calling him a coward for submitting to the bad things that were happening rather than standing up for himself. And Volke, he's definitely seen some adversity or some trials and tribulations, some things that he could have very easily been like, screw it, I'm just going to turn corrupt. Yeah, he could have let the plague consume him. He could have let a lot of things happen. He chose to rise above it. I agree with Volke when he was like, no, you made your decisions. You could have been a stronger person, someone with more fortitude, and could have not done the things that you did at the end of the day.
It's a real tough perspective to be Linus and have Volke just like not throwing it in his face, but like calling him out, like, hey, I did more. Are you willing to do more? Like, where are you going to draw the line and actually change and become the person you want to be?
I think the other part of it is using the R word, responsibility. A lot of. Actually, I'm not going to go there. I think the biggest thing is Volke wants Linus to take responsibility of his actions and understand that he's the reason why everything has happened and not because of everybody else's decisions or so on and so forth.
That does bring us to chapter 37, Ending the Plague. So Volke is going through the tunnels with Zaxis. Volke can sense the corruption, and he's essentially like little find and seek for Zaxis, where he's there's a plague one over there, go fight him. And Zaxis goes and fights these plague-ridden Hydras. He at first is using his fists and kind of gets covered in blood. And then there's this awesome scene where Vorin is just like, yeah, I'm going to end this. It just rips the heart out.
I love that.
I know. It just, you can just tell Vorin's so happy. Like, he's in his element. He's like, I'm just wrecking havoc out on the battlefield.
And not only does Bjorn remind me of a Twilight Princess Link, Wolf Link specifically with the chains on his wrist, but the whole like eating the heart out of the Poe when they find him.
Yes. Volke does end up convincing Zaxis to create a weapon. He's like, your magic now isn't really suited to fighting in the same way that your Phoenix magic was, so you may want to consider something a little more long distance. And there is actually Zaxis agreeing with this, which it took a little bit to get there, but I'm glad Zaxis realized that, like, my powers don't suit fighting up everything hand to hand now. Like, I have ice and illusions and other things that are more long range.
I'm glad Zaxis kind of finally realized that he needs to change his fighting style and actually find a weapon that's worth using for him. In chapter 38, Artifact Creation, we get a mention of the Dryads again, and I absolutely love the Dryads whenever they're mentioned. They just kind of appear out of nowhere. We don't know why, but and even Foyle doesn't know why she's there, how she got there, but again, love them nonetheless. And Terraconda is just so adorable when it comes to these Dryads, because he's just like, but look my little things, I love them.
Must protect.
Yes, I must protect them. They are mine. Now we've spent quite a bit of time in Regal Heights now, and the rest of the Frith Guild has caught up with us. As we meet the Frith Guild coming in on their caravan, Ilya and Eviana are really close to each other, like proximity-wise, and something tells me that they have became very good friends on this trip, and that they're basically besties now, and I feel like this could be a very dangerous thing.
Your sister and your betrothed, I wonder what they were talking about together.
Like, you want everybody to get along, but you don't want everybody to necessarily be friends. As we are seeing everything that's being brought over from Thronehold, we find out that the Lamplighters Guildmaster gives Volke some venom and scales to craft with, and we also have all sorts of fun, goody mystical creature parts, including Sovereign Dragon scales, which are from not Rishian, but the other male Sovereign Dragon Arcanist that we fought, Ladislava fought. And we even have Hellian's mask, claws, and some of his fur. And I bet that this mask would make one hell of a paralyzing trinket or artifact.
A true form mana core? Yeah, that's powerful.
And that mask, ooh. In my headcanon, whenever mentioning about having mystical creature parts, I'm always thinking that it's, and it's very grotesque, that like it's some kind of decaying flesh. So like a rabbit's foot, just not preserved yet.
No magic to help keep it while you're there. You have 3 days to make a trinket out of it.
Right. That's I don't know why my mind always goes there. Not like fur or hair or bones or claws, those kinds of things that aren't. But that for some reason is whatever always pops into my brain every time I read that. So
that brings us to chapter 39, A Sword of Legend. So Eviana is waiting in Volke's room. She compares their relationship to Zaxxas and Ilia's, and people keep doing this. It's like, I would not want people to make that comparison if I were Volke. Like, don't compare relationships. Relationships are different for a reason, and to be compared to your sister all the time is just gotta be weird.
And to Zaxxas.
That as well. Eviana really just wants Volke to be more romantic. So he's whips out this line out of nowhere. It sounds like it's from some fairy tale. So he's working his magic. He's getting there, but he's got a long way to go from the sounds of it. Volke does go to find Jose, and when he gets there, Jose's creating the potion for Zelfrey. There's this back and forth. He kind of gives Volke the potion. He says, you know, hey, we don't really know what to do with it. You can kind of have the leftover of it. And we're just going to take that and then go throw it in the gorge with everything else because we don't want it. And then finally Volke talks to him about attuning retribution so that it can't be stolen by anyone.
And in chapter 40, Tracker Extraordinaire, things are getting quite steamy between Volke and Eviana. I almost think that Eviana is just a touch upset about Volke's self-control. Obviously, in the series, Shammy does not go into that direction with things. But with Eviana specifically, I think she kind of wished that he didn't have such control. Now, Lashel sticks behind after Eviana is leaving to remind Volke that she does not require sleep and that she will be there the whole time they spend the night together. And that immediately kills any kind of mood or anything like that, like we would expect.
I just pictured this little, like, shadow tendril coming up, like, tap, tap. That's too much. Retreat with shadow tendril.
Or like sliding between them and then like pushing them apart.
Coming into form in between them. Save room for Lashel.
If you ever been to a Christian camp, save room for the Holy Spirit. Volke wakes up in the morning to our wonderful housekeeper letting himself in again. And behind him comes Hexa and the Laylap's Arcanist, who is as well while he was asleep. Because who needs to knock or do any kind of decencies? We find out from Hexa that we have a trace of the Ghoul Arcanist and the Ghoul. We're going to go and search out to see where they are. So we get a quick party together and head out with Terracotta and Bjorn. Would you rather ride on Terracotta? And I'm talking like up toward the head, so it's not so much the serpentine or the tail where you're getting flicked around everywhere, or Bjorn. Like, which would you prefer?
I feel like Bjorn would be one, just way more badass of a feeling. Like, this is a giant wolf. And also, I just love dogs. So, like, I'm gonna, like, when it comes down to it, dog or snake, I'm gonna pick the dog. Sorry.
I mean, every time I see them Great Wolf Lodge commercials where they come to the people's house and they get to ride off on the giant wolves, I'm jealous.
I picture that's what it's like. And they go down water slides together.
Exactly. Like, we have dire wolves now, so maybe this could be a thing.
It could be. And honestly, Volke can morph terrain. Volke could create a water slide.
Shammy, make this canon, please. As we're getting closer and closer, we do find the entrance to the lair. Bjorn and Archne is the name of the dog. Archne is the name of the Laylap's Eldrin, and this is a dog, really cool dog moment, I guess, because the two of them are like sniffing each other, and then their tail waggles, and then they're like, okay, there's something going on with this boulder.
I like that boulder. That's a nice boulder.
Donkey! So everybody has already left with no trace, essentially. The way that... Let me go back to the boulder for a second. The illusion on the boulder is amazing because Volke literally moves the ground underneath said boulder, and the boulder is still there just because of the illusion. Now that we know that the boulder is in fact an illusion, we go down into the hideout. Everybody essentially has left. There's no trace of them. We have no idea where they could have gone, so we're kind of back to square one with having to try to find where everybody else is. And this week we do have we're going to go over the Hydra. I realized that we have not actually gone back over them since we first got introduced, so we will talk about those today. These are mystical creatures that are purple in color. They are dog-sized crocodiles with heads and long neck, with heads and a long neck of a snake. After bonding, hydras age and size up fairly rapidly, and they end up developing multiple heads. Each head has its own quirk, and basically every fifth head is considered a king head and develops horns and is definitely a lot more intelligent, I guess is a good way to put it. And basically the king's head is the one in charge. As a fully grown adult, the Hydra also weighs several tons and has very stubby legs and barely capable of moving around. If you are confused when I mention that Hydras are green or purple, not green, I don't know that it was able to be corrected prior to the bestiary coming out or not. I'm looking on the wiki, and again, not 100% sure whether it was able to be corrected in the Hydras are tier 2 creature. They are progeny born. They dwell in the canyons, and they make their home in caves and tall rock cliffs. They produce eggs after consuming hundreds of pounds worth of canyon shrimp. We know that they're able to evoke poisonous gas. They're able to manipulate poisonous gas, and they end up having an immunity to the augmentations of other Hydras. They also have heightened endurance and pain tolerance, and when they augment themselves, they grant immunity to poisons and venoms. When they imbue things, it basically is an antidote, and that Hydra magic gives deadly venom powers or grants immunity to various forms of poisons. Their aura is indestructible, and when a Hydra Arcanist creature creates an aura, all the horns on the king's head of the Hydra glows a very sickly purple, and while this aura is active, the Arcanist and the Hydra are stronger and tougher. And this is completely based on the number of king's heads, along with that, as well as a multiplying factor. So if they have several king's heads, be stronger aura. Innate abilities is that they are immune to poison, venom, and paralysis. Additionally, they both have faster than normal natural healing, and Hydras will regrow lost heads, and that's essentially how it grows. True form types is a Gaius. Hydra Arcanist must kill a Nemean lion, griffin, manticore, or hippogriff while their aura is in effect in order for their Eldrin to transform. So, Hexa would have killed Hellion with her aura present. She would have gotten herself a true form Hydra. Now, once they are true form, it basically has all of its heads become king's head, and they all speak in unison, with their scales becoming so spiked that they harm most non-armored individuals who touch them. Their true form ability is unkillable, in that the Hydra and its Arcanist will generate their body so long as the Hydra has one of its king's heads still attached to its body. So As long as you kill all of that, take off all of the heads, it could kill it at that point. Not while there's still one left. Now, in Frith Chronicles world lore, they are famously from the canyon known as Regal Heights, and they are filled with the Hydra nests, where often shrouded in legend and mystery and many thoughts that the canyon is cursed. Over time, the Hydras are taken to various other canyons where they made their homes, and they become known as protectors of homesteads. People who bond with Hydras are often considered tougher than normal. And some real-world inspiration from the Frith Chronicles are basically heavily based off of the Greek legend of Hercules' 12 labors. For his second labor, Hercules was tasked with killing the Hydra, whose poison breath and noxious blood were both deadly. In later versions of the legend, the Hydra would regrow 2 heads for each one lopped off, making it seemingly impossible to kill. All the Hydra's magical abilities in this universe are based off of those tales. And I don't believe I went over the Trial of Worth, but in order to bond with one, you have to go into their lair, wrestle with it, and essentially the more scars and injuries that you can incur, the better, as long as you don't die. So.
It's a tough balance.
Right, yeah, it's all about balance, exactly. All right, with that ends today's episode of chapters 36 through 40 of Master Arcanist. Next week, we'll be covering chapters 40 to 45. And with that, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next week.